Ever feel like, I don't know, trying to fly through an asteroid field but without, a working radar? Kind of going to be like operating without good intel, right?
Oh, absolutely. You'd be flying blind for sure.
Exactly. And that's why we're diving deep into Space Doctrine Publication 20, SDP, 20 for short. This doc, it basically lays out how the U.S. Space Force uses intelligence to, well, not crash into those asteroids.
Right, you could say that. It's the core doctrine, the rule book for how the Space Force maintains its edge in space.
Okay, so before we get lost in space, why is intelligence, like, really, truly, critically important for a guardian? Can't we just point, I don't know, a really powerful telescope up there and call it a day?
Huh, I wish it were that easy. Space is, well, it's a challenging environment, to put it mildly. Vast, unforgiving. Intelligence is key to navigating that environment effectively, avoiding risks, and actually achieving mission success.
It's more than just pretty pictures of stars. It's about knowing what's out there and what to do about it.
Exactly. Without it, you're basically operating in the dark. And SDP 2.0, it provides the framework to make sure that never happens. It's all about having the information you need to make those critical decisions, to be proactive, not reactive.
So no fancy telescopes then. More like game-changing intel.
Exactly. SDP 2.0 emphasizes a really critical point that's easy to overlook. Space operations, they're multi-domain. We're not just talking about satellites here, although those are, of course, crucial. It's about understanding how space, air, land, sea, even cyberspace, they all connect. It's about seeing the bigger picture.
Okay, so like everything affects everything else. What happens here on Earth matters in space and vice versa.
Precisely. Imagine you're trying to defend a critical satellite. You might have information coming in from ground-based radar systems, from space-based sensors, even, cyber intelligence platforms. And all of that comes together to give you a much more complete picture of the situation.
So it's about connecting those dots. You need all the pieces to see the full picture, right? Like
Yeah.
a giant cosmic jigsaw puzzle.
Exactly. And that's where SDP 2.0 comes in. It provides that framework for taking all that information from all those different sources and turning it into something that's clear, actionable, something commanders can actually use to make decisions.
Wow, this is already making me realize just how complex space operations really are. It's more than just rockets and satellites, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's a dynamic and constantly evolving field. But at its core, SDP 2.0 is about utilizing intelligence to maintain awareness, make informed decisions, and ultimately achieve those big picture strategic objectives in space.
And speaking of big picture objectives, I noticed that SDP 2.0 talks about different levels of intelligence. Is that like, I don't know, a ranking system or something?
It's more like a hierarchy of information. Each level, it builds on the one before it. At the very top, you have strategic intelligence.
Okay, so that's the top of the pyramid. What's it all about?
That's the big picture stuff. It's about understanding a rival nation's space capabilities, their intentions, what their long-term goals might be. We're talking informing national policy here, those really high-level decisions.
So strategic intelligence is about understanding the entire chessboard, not just one move.
Exactly. And then you have operational intelligence. This one is a little more focused. It's about specific campaigns, major operations.
So if strategic is the whole chessboard, operational is thinking a few moves ahead.
You got it. Let's say you're planning a large-scale satellite maneuver. Operational intelligence, it'll give you insights into the best timing, potential threats you might encounter, how to achieve your objectives within a given theater of operations.
Okay, that makes sense. And then at the base of the pyramid, we have.
Tactical intelligence. This is the real-time stuff, the down-in-the-trenches info that directly supports those day-to-day missions.
So this is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak.
Exactly. Immediate threats, split-second decisions, that sort of thing. Tactical intelligence gives commanders on the ground, or I guess in orbit, the actionable information they need right when they need it.
Okay, so we've got our intelligence pyramid. Strategic, operational, tactical. But SDP 2.0 also talks about how crucial intelligence is for each of the Space Force's 6 core disciplines, right?
Absolutely. Intelligence isn't just some, side dish to those disciplines. It's the main course, deeply woven into every single aspect of space operations. And that's what we're going to unpack next time.
Welcome back. Glad to have you with us as we keep going, deeper into this whole world of Space Force intelligence.
Yeah, it's really fascinating stuff. Last time we were talking about SDP 2.0, right? Like it's the rule book, the guiding document.
It is the doctrine.
Right, the doctrine. And we were talking about those different levels of intelligence. Strategic, operational, tactical, like climbing an intelligence pyramid, you said. Yeah, each level gives you a different perspective, a different understanding of the playing field. But, gathering intelligence itself, well, it's a process.
Right. Makes
Right,
sense.
SDP 2.0, it lays out that process in detail. So think of it maybe less like building a pyramid and more like refining raw materials,
Yeah.
like taking something basic and turning it into something really valuable.
Okay, so we're not just like grabbing random bits of information from space. There's a method to all of this.
Oh, absolutely. There's a very specific intelligence cycle. It's a continuous process, takes you from identifying what you need to know all the way to actually using that knowledge. And it all starts with planning and direction.
Okay, so planning and direction. Pretty self-explanatory, right? Figure out what you need to know.
Exactly. Commanders at different levels, they figure out their intelligence needs, what information is absolutely crucial for them to make decisions, what are the biggest threats they're facing, and how can we, learn more about them. Those needs, they get translated into specific guidance, specific requirements for intelligence collection. It's all about priorities.
So like making a shopping list before you go to the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you end up with a cart full of chips and no milk.
Exactly. You need a plan. Once you've got your shopping list, or I guess in this case, your intelligence requirements, you move on to collection. That's where you actually go out and you gather the raw data, and you're trying to get it from as many sources as possible.
Okay, so we're talking satellites, ground-based sensors, the whole shebang.
You got it. SDP 2.0, it stresses just how important it is to cast a wide net. You want the most complete picture possible, the most accurate picture of what's happening. Just like if you were trying to piece together...
Like an event that happened.
Exactly. It's like having multiple witnesses to something. The more perspectives you have, the closer you get to the truth.
Right, but even with multiple witnesses, you still have to figure out, like, what actually happened, right?
Exactly. And that's where the next phase comes in, processing.
So we're taking all this raw data, which could be in, different formats, different languages, different levels of detail, and we're turning it into something that's actually usable.
Right. Think of it like translating and organizing. Like if you had a jigsaw puzzle, but all the pieces were just jumbled up, you'd want to sort them by shape, by color, before you even try to put it together, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Get everything organized.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've planned, we've collected, we've processed. Sounds like we're getting to the good stuff now.
Right. Well, this is where it gets really interesting in the analysis and production phase.
Tell me more.
So this is where the skilled analysts really step in. They examine all that data. They're looking for patterns. They're connecting the dots. They're trying to figure out what it all means, really separating the signal from the noise.
It's like being a detective, right? But instead of a magnifying glass, they've got satellite imagery.
Exactly. They use all these sophisticated tools, software, their own expertise. They take all that data and draw conclusions, meaningful conclusions. And then those conclusions get turned into intelligence products. So reports, assessments, briefings, anything that communicates those key insights.
Okay, so you've gone from raw data to polished intel.
Yeah.
And then what? Who gets to see it?
Well, intelligence is only valuable if it's actually used, right? So it has to get to the right people at the right time,
Yeah.
decision makers who can act on it, commanders, operators, analysts.
Get it to the people on the front lines right when the mission is about to launch.
Exactly. Timing is key. SDP 2.0, it emphasizes that. Getting the information out quickly, securely. And it's not just about speed, it's about tailoring it too. A pilot needs different information than, say, a general planning a large-scale operation.
Yeah, of course, different jobs, different needs.
Yeah.
So the intel goes out, and then...
And then it's put to use. That's the exploitation phase. Commanders use those insights to make decisions, maybe adjust their strategies, allocate resources, ultimately achieve their objectives.
It's like having a cheat code for a video game. Except, real life, real consequences.
And just like in a video game, if your strategy isn't working, you got to adapt. You need to figure out why. And that's where the final stage comes in. Evaluation and feedback.
Last step. Time to figure out what worked, what didn't, what we can do better next time.
Exactly. Were there gaps in our knowledge? Was the information accurate? Was it timely? Could we have used it more effectively? By constantly evaluating and refining the process, we ensure that this intelligence cycle, it's always running smoothly, always providing those insights when we need them most.
So it never really ends. It's a constant cycle of planning, collecting, analyzing, sharing, acting, and then refining the whole thing all over again.
And that constant evolution, that's what keeps us one step ahead. The world of space intelligence. It's dynamic. It's always changing.
Back again. Man, I feel like I've been through like a crash course at Space Force Intelligence Academy.
Well, hey, it's all about building a strong foundation, right? Understanding not just the what, but the why behind everything.
Right, exactly. We covered the different levels of intelligence, strategic down to tactical, and that whole intelligence cycle. How you actually take raw data and turn it into something useful.
And now we're going to connect all of that to the actual space-powered disciplines,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, let's bring it all together. I want to see how this actually plays out, in the real world, or should I say real space.
Absolutely. Let's start with orbital warfare. Sounds kind of intense, right?
Yeah, a little bit. It does make you think of, like, Star Wars or something.
Well, it's definitely a critical part of space operations. Think about it. Out there in space, knowledge is your greatest weapon.
Okay, I'm listening.
To move your assets effectively, defend against threats, you need to know what's happening around you.
So it's about knowing where everything is in this, like, big, giant space sandbox, what everyone's doing.
Exactly. Space intelligence, it gives you that strategic advantage. It allows you to, maneuver your satellites safely, avoid collisions, even gain the upper hand if something were to happen.
Right, because out there, one wrong move, and it's all over.
And it's not just about knowing where things are, but what they can do. Is that satellite a communication satellite? Surveillance, something else entirely. Intelligence gives you that complete picture.
So you can, what, plan accordingly, maybe avoid some kind of, like, galactic misunderstanding.
Exactly. Because in space, miscalculations, they have lasting consequences. Okay, let's move on to space electromagnetic warfare. This one's really interesting.
It sounds pretty high-tech. I'll be honest, I don't really know much about it.
So basically, think of the electromagnetic spectrum as like this invisible battlefield. It's what our satellites use to communicate, navigate, transfer data.
Okay, so it's like their lifeline.
Exactly. But it's also a place where things can get disrupted. Adversaries can jam signals, interfere with systems, even try to block our ability to operate effectively.
Right, so it's a constant battle to maintain control.
You got it. And intelligence, it helps us win that battle. We need to understand what frequencies they're using, what their capabilities are, their tactics, so we can defend our own systems.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You need to know what you're up against. So what's next?
Space battle management.
Okay, so we're talking about the people who are actually, like, making all this happen.
In a way, yeah. Think of them as like the ultimate multitaskers in space. They're coordinating satellites, ground stations, all kinds of space assets. It's a big job.
I bet. So how does intelligence play into all of that?
Space battle managers, they need a constant stream of accurate information, and they need it in real time. Where are our assets? Where are the potential threats? What's the overall space environment looking like? Intelligence gives them that.
Provides that real-time view of the battlefield.
Precisely. It's about making sure those space operations, they run smoothly, effectively, in sync. Okay, next up is space access and sustainment. This one might not sound as, I don't know, exciting as orbital warfare, but
But I'm guessing it's just as important.
absolutely. This is like the logistics arm of space operations. It's how we make sure we can get our stuff up there safely and efficiently and then keep it operational.
Okay, so this is about more than just, like, launching a satellite. It's about making sure it actually stays up there and does its job.
Exactly. Think about all the things that could go wrong. Threats to launch sites, supply chain disruptions, problems with the ground stations that we use to communicate with our satellites. Intelligence helps us anticipate and mitigate those risks.
So it's like making sure the supply lines to a battlefield are secure, but in space.
Exactly. We need to be able to maintain our presence in space, and that means secure supply lines, both physical and informational.
Okay, that makes sense. What about the tech side of things? Engineering and acquisition.
Another critical area. We need to constantly be innovating, developing new technologies, acquiring the best systems to stay ahead of the game. That's how we maintain our edge.
So intelligence helps you guys decide what to build next.
In a way, yeah. We need to understand what our adversaries are developing, what their tactics might be, and then we can design our systems with those future challenges in mind. It's about being proactive, not reactive.
Always staying one step ahead.
Exactly. And then last but definitely not least, we have cyber operations.
Well, right, because everything relies on computers these days.
And those systems, they're vulnerable. Cyber attacks can cripple communication, disrupt operations, even destroy satellites.
It's like a whole other battlefield. So how does intelligence factor in here?
It's about understanding the threats. What are hackers trying to exploit? What tactics are they using? Once we understand that, we can build stronger defenses. detect intrusions, and respond more effectively if an attack does occur.
Wow, we covered a lot of ground today, from the strategic level down to the tactical, across all those different disciplines.
And the common thread through it all, intelligence. It really is the key to success in space.
I think you've convinced me. Well, folks, that's about all the time we have for our deep dive into SDP 2.0.
Hope you learned something new.
I know I did. Until next time, keep exploring the cosmos. And remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to space.